Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou has appeared in a Canadian court for a procedural hearing on the U.S. extradition case. And now let's go live to our reporter Hendrik Sybrandy, who has been following this in Vancouver. Hendrik, hello there, morning from Beijing. First of all, get us up to speed on the latest developments from the hearing.
Well, this case is shaping up to be a very complicated and a very drawn-out case, as we kind of suspected when Meng Wanzhou was arrested here in Vancouver back in December. This is the third time we've been in Vancouver. Back in March, we were here. The hearing that we thought might last some time only lasted about 15 minutes. Today was a very different story at the BC Supreme Court here. The hearing lasted over 2 hours. Her lawyers laid out several issues that they have a lot of concerns about, issues that they think should prevent an extradition hearing from taking place later this year. They laid out 3 categories which they say are problematic. One of them is abuse of process. They claim that she was mistreated and basically improperly arrested at the airport back in December. So that's one area. Another one is something called double criminality. In other words, some of the allegations against her involving fraud, they have to be considered fraud both in the U.S. and in Canada in order for an extradition to go ahead. Her lawyers say that that fraud contention is not criminal the same way in Canada, therefore an extradition would not be appropriate. And finally, they just say there's insufficient evidence, that it's not clear that she broke the law in her dealings with banks, which are the basis of some of the allegations against her and the charges against her that caused the U.S. to file the warrant that then Canada responded to back in early December.
Right, and Meng's attorney presented 3 major points that could influence procedures. How could they play out exactly? Do we have any more details on next hearing dates and what they will be focusing on?
Right, and so they were arguing for another hearing, actually 2 weeks worth of hearings, sometime later this year, that they are hoping would short circuit or stay a possible extradition of Meng to the United States. The judge agreed to give them 8 days, so 3 days in late September and then another 5 days into early October, at which these 3 different areas are going to be hashed out and the motions are going to be taken up. If the judge decides that any one of those 3 areas are sufficient grounds to cancel the extradition hearing, then that'll happen, and the extradition to the U.S. will be stayed in effect. But that's a big question mark right now. The Crown here, the Attorney General for Canada, says they have sufficient evidence to extradite her to the U.S. They feel confident in their case, and so they obviously are going to be arguing the other side when the 2 parties reconvene here in court at the end of September. So that's the schedule right now. She remains confined to the Vancouver area. She's living in one of her homes now with an ankle monitor, so they're keeping tabs on her, but she is not able to leave the Vancouver area and won't be able to leave now until this fall at the very earliest.
Thank you very much.